Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Islamic Notes channel, a place to share real-life stories of converts from around the world, discover their heart-touching journey, and how the light of Islam changed their lives. The early presence of Islam in England. The story of the presence of Islam in England did not appear suddenly. It is the result of a long journey rooted in historical relations, trade, and cross-civilizational interactions between the Islamic world and Europe for centuries. Historians note that relations between England and the Islamic world began in the 8th to 9th centuries, when Arab traders began exploring the waters of Western Europe. They brought valuable goods such as spices, silk cloth, and precious metals. Although at that time there was no settled Muslim community, the early seeds of interaction between the two worlds had already begun to grow. However, the real presence of Muslims in England only really began in the late 19th century. At that time, Britain was the world's largest colonial power, controlling Muslim-majority territories such as India, Egypt, Sudan, and Yemen. It was from here that Muslim sailors, traders, and workers came who then sailed to England to work on merchant ships and in the maritime industry. Port cities such as Cardiff, Liverpool, and London became the starting point for the formation of the first Muslim communities in England. There, Muslim sailors, mostly from Yemen and Bengal, began to form small settlements. They lived simply, often in difficult economic conditions, but still adhered to the teachings of Islam. In the midst of British society, which at that time was still very homogeneous in terms of religion and culture, the existence of the Muslim community was something strange. However, their perseverance and patience in maintaining their religious identity actually makes them respected as a disciplined and ethical group. One of the most historic moments in this early phase was the founding of the Abdullah Quilliam Mosque in Liverpool in 1889. This mosque was founded by an Englishman named William Henry Quilliam, a lawyer who converted to Islam after traveling to Morocco. He then changed his name to Abdullah Quilliam and founded a missionary institution that spread Islamic understanding in England. Abdullah Quilliam is known as the first convert to Islam to openly preach Islam in England. Through social activities, education, and the publication of Islamic magazines, he introduced Islamic teachings to British society at a time when Islam was still very little known. His preaching activities attracted the attention of many groups, including British intellectuals at that time. The Quilliam Mosque is not only a place of worship, but also a center for learning and interfaith dialogue. There, the British people began to learn Islamic values such as justice, cleanliness, and compassion. Although the number of Muslims at that time was still very small, only a few hundred people in all of England, they had laid an important foundation for the future development of Islam. It was from this small community that the long journey of Islam in England began. The struggle of these early Muslims was not an easy one. They have to face prejudice, discrimination, and social pressure. However, the steadfastness of their faith keeps Islam alive and growing in an environment of different beliefs. Over time, the children of these Muslim sailors began to settle permanently, marrying locals and giving birth to the first generation of British Muslims. They formed a unique identity, still Muslim, but also part of British society. It was from here that the initial foundations for the formation of the Muslim population in Britain began to be established. A foundation that would later develop into one of the most dynamic religious communities in Europe. The Great Migration Wave after World War II. After World War II ended in 1945, Britain faced very difficult times. The country was devastated economically and infrastructurally by the long war against Nazi Germany. Many factories and industrial lines were damaged, and millions of people lost their jobs. To rebuild the country, the British government needed a large workforce. This opportunity opened a new chapter in the history of the presence of Islam in England. The British government began inviting workers from Commonwealth countries, former British colonies in Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean, to come and work in the industrial sector. Countries such as Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh are the main sources of this workforce. Thousands of people from Muslim areas of South Asia come to Britain in the hope of a better life. Most of them are young men who left their families and their hometowns to seek a living in distant lands. They worked in textile mills in Bradford and Manchester, in coal mines in Yorkshire and Wales, and in steel mills in Birmingham and Sheffield. Their arrival was not without challenges. In the early days, they lived in very simple conditions, often in crowded and uninhabitable housing. British society at that time was still not accustomed to the presence of citizens from different cultural and religious backgrounds. They often experienced racial discrimination and social prejudice. However, these Muslim workers remained steadfast. They not only come to work, but also bring their Islamic faith and culture with them. In the midst of busy work, they continue to pray, fast during the month of Ramadan, and maintain Islamic traditions in their daily lives. It was from this small community that the need arose to build a place of worship and a Muslim community center. Initially, they used small rooms in their homes or warehouses for congregational prayers. However, over time, permanent mosques began to be built. In the 1960s, several large mosques began to be built, such as the London Central Mosque in Regent's Park, which remains a symbol of the presence of Islam in Britain. During this period, Islamic organizations began to emerge that played a role in fighting for the rights of Muslims. They worked together in social, educational, and dawah activities to ensure that the next generation continues to know the teachings of Islam, even though they live in Western countries. In the following years, these Muslim workers began bringing their families from their hometowns to settle in England. This is where the second generation of British Muslims emerged. Children who grew up in British schools, spoke fluent English, but still inherited the Islamic values of their parents. The Muslim community began to grow rapidly. In cities such as Birmingham, Bradford, Leicester, and London, Muslim neighborhoods are forming with halal shops, madrasas, and social institutions. This atmosphere creates a strong sense of togetherness and solidarity among fellow Muslims living abroad. Despite facing various social and economic difficulties, their enthusiasm for building the future never fades. They realize that to be recognized as part of British society, they had to work hard, be educated, and contribute. This great post-war wave of migration laid the foundation for the growth of the Muslim population in modern Britain. From just a few thousand people in the early 20th century, the number of Muslims increased to hundreds of thousands by the 1970s. They brought not only energy and hard work, but also Islamic values that enriched British social life, discipline, responsibility, and family solidarity. From this point on, Islam in Britain began to be recognized not just as an immigrant religion, but as part of the new face of British society, multicultural, diverse, and dynamic. The emergence of British Muslim identity and the role of the second generation. Entering the 1980s and 1990s, the development of Islam in Britain entered a very important new chapter. After the Great Wave of Migration in the 1950s to 1970s, Muslim communities in various large cities began to establish a more settled life. The second generation, the children of Muslim immigrants, grew up in the British environment, attended the local education system, and became part of modern European society. This is the generation known as British Muslims, a group of people rooted in Islamic traditions, but who also identify as truly British citizens. They speak English as their primary language, dress like typical teenagers, but still adhere to Islamic values in their daily lives. It was this generation that began to fight for the position of Muslims in the British public sphere. They are highly educated, working in various fields such as law, medicine, business, and education. Their success marked a major social transformation. Islam was no longer the religion of immigrant workers, but had become part of the British educated middle class. However, this journey is not always smooth. The 1980s to 1990s were also marked by various challenges, particularly the growth of social tensions and prejudice against the Muslim community. Some media portray Islam negatively, especially after the emergence of global conflicts such as the war in the Middle East and the issue of extremism. However, the Muslim community in Britain responded in an intelligent and peaceful manner. They founded national Islamic organizations such as the Muslim Council of Britain, MCB, in 1997. This organization became an official forum to fight for the rights of Muslims, engage in dialogue with the government, and voice Muslim interests in public policy. In addition, influential Muslim figures began to emerge in the political and social world. One of the most well-known is Sadiq Khan, the son of a Pakistani bus driver, who rose through the ranks as a Labour politician and eventually became mayor of London in 2016. He became the first Muslim to lead one of the largest cities in the Western world, a symbol of recognition of the presence of British Muslims in society. In the field of education, Islamic schools are growing rapidly in various regions. Many of them recorded high academic achievements, even surpassing state schools. This proves that Islam and modern education can go hand in hand. On the other hand, mosques are also growing rapidly. If in the early 1970s there were only around 100 mosques, then by the end of the 1990s the number had reached more than 1,000 mosques throughout England. From traditional mosques to modern architecture, all of them are centers of social and spiritual activities for the Muslim community. Young British Muslims are also active in the arts, sport, and media. Names like Mo Farah, the Olympic runner from Somalia who became a British citizen, and Zayn Malik, the singer who was once a member of the group One Direction, show that Muslims can be successful and still be proud of their identity. All these changes strengthen the image of Islam in Britain as a religion that is not only surviving, but thriving with a new identity. Modern, educated, and open. The second generation of British Muslims has successfully demonstrated that being Muslim and being British are not two things that are incompatible with each other. They prove that Islamic values such as hard work, honesty, and social solidarity could go hand in hand with the spirit of democracy and freedom upheld by the British. From this was born a new strong identity, British Muslim identity, an identity that unites faith and citizenship in harmony. It was this generation that laid the solid foundations for the development of modern Islam in Britain, which ultimately brought the Muslim population to an unprecedented figure of 3 million at the start of the 21st century. Britain's Muslim population grows to 3 million people. Entering the 21st century, Islam in England experienced very rapid and extraordinary development. National census data shows a significant increase in the number of Muslims from year to year. For the first time in history, the Muslim population in Britain has surpassed 3 million, making it the fastest growing religion in the country. In 2001, the number of Muslims in the UK was recorded at around 1.6 million people. 10 years later, in the 2011 census, that figure jumped to 2.7 million. Then in the latest census, the number rose again to over 3 million people, or around 5.7% of the total UK population. This growth is not just a statistical figure, but reflects major social, spiritual, and cultural changes in the land of England. Several important factors contributed to this rapid growth. High birth rate. Muslim families in the UK generally have higher birth rates than the national average. The tradition of large families and the importance of offspring in Islam means that the number of children in Muslim families is relatively large. Migration and change of residence. Apart from births, migration also plays an important role. Many Muslims from countries such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, Somalia, Nigeria, and Syria come to the UK seeking a safe and stable life, especially after conflicts in their home countries. Increasing number of mu'allaf, conversions to Islam. The phenomenon of converting to Islam in England is becoming more frequent, especially among the younger generation and women. Many British people have found peace in Islam after studying the Quran and its teachings. One famous example is Lauren Booth, British journalist and sister-in-law of former Prime Minister Tony Blair, who converted to Islam in 2010 after a profound spiritual experience. Stories like these illustrate how Islam is increasingly being accepted as a way of life by modern society in Britain. In addition, mosques and Islamic institutions have now become an important part of British public life. If in 1970 there were only a few dozen mosques, now the number has reached more than 1,800 mosques spread across the country, from London to small towns like Leicester and Blackburn. Mosques are no longer just places of worship, but also community centers that organize children's education, social activities, humanitarian aid, and interfaith dialogue programs. Many large mosques in England are also architectural symbols and points of pride for the local community, such as the London Central Mosque in Regent's Park and the Birmingham Central Mosque, which are often visited by non-Muslims to learn more about Islam. This growth in the Muslim population is also giving rise to interesting demographic shifts. In some large cities, Muslims are now the second largest religious group after Christians. In the city of Bradford, for example, the Muslim population makes up more than 25% of the total population. In Birmingham, their numbers continue to grow, and they play a large role in the local economy, education, and politics. However, what is most interesting is how the British Muslim community is becoming increasingly integrated into wider society. Many young Muslims now work in professional fields, occupy important positions in government, and are even involved in media and entertainment. Islam in Britain is no longer just synonymous with immigrants or minority communities, but has become part of the national identity of modern Britain, a new face of a country once known as a symbol of European Christianity. This population growth of up to 3 million people is a major milestone. It signifies that Islam has truly taken root and developed strongly in Britain, not through political or economic power, but through the faith, steadfastness, and real contribution of Muslims to society. Today, the call to prayer resounds every day in more than 1,000 mosques across the country. Muslims fast during Ramadan with great enthusiasm, holding iftar gatherings across religions and celebrating Eid al-Fitr in the major parks of London and Manchester with thousands of participants. All this shows that Islam has become a natural part of social life in Britain. This growth also brings changes in society's perspective. While Islam was once often seen as a foreign religion, many British people now see it as a religion of peace, family, and honesty. This view continues to be reinforced by the positive contributions of the Muslim community in the social, economic, and humanitarian fields. With a population now exceeding 3 million, Islam in Britain is no longer on the fringes, but has become an important pillar of the diversity of the British nation. Challenges in social integration of the British Muslim community. Although the Muslim population in Britain continues to grow rapidly and become increasingly influential, their journey has not been easy. Despite this progress, the Muslim community also faces a variety of complex social, cultural, and political challenges, particularly those related to integration, stereotypes, and discrimination. After the tragedy of September 11, 2001 in the United States and the London bombings in 2005, the Muslim community in Britain experienced a difficult time. They are often victims of prejudice and suspicion and are even called a threat to national security. At that time, the mass media often highlighted the issue of terrorism from a perspective that worsened the image of Islam. Many British Muslims feel that they have to work twice as hard to prove that Islam is a religion of peace and that they are a law-abiding and contributing part of British society. It is in this context that social integration becomes a major challenge for Muslims in the UK. However, amidst these pressures, a new generation of resilient and inspiring British Muslims is emerging. They not only survived, but also became a bridge between two worlds, between Islamic values and modern British life. One figure who is often mentioned is Sadiq Khan, the first Muslim mayor of London. He became a symbol of the successful integration of Muslims into British politics. Her victory was not only historic, but also showed that British society has become increasingly open to diversity. Furthermore, many young British Muslims excel in various fields. In education, many have successfully gained entry to prestigious universities such as Oxford and Cambridge. In the business sector, successful Muslim entrepreneurs have emerged in building halal businesses and technology startups. In the arts and entertainment sector, a growing number of Muslim musicians, writers, and filmmakers are using their work to dispel negative stereotypes about Islam. The Muslim community is also active in establishing social organizations and charities, such as Islamic Relief UK and Muslim Aid, which not only help the Muslim community, but also the general public, regardless of religion. This activity strengthens the image that Islam is a religion that encourages compassion and human solidarity. In the field of education, Islamic schools in England continue to grow. Many of them are recognized for their students' high academic achievements and discipline. On the other hand, in large universities, Muslim student groups are active in social and academic activities, and often hold interfaith dialogues with Christian, Jewish, and Hindu students. However, challenges remain. Some British Muslims still face job discrimination, housing difficulties, and occasional Islamophobic sentiments on social media and in politics. However, Muslims are not remaining silent. They are fighting back in peaceful ways, through education, dialogue, and moral example. The young generation of Muslims is now a great hope. They grew up in England, speak fluent English, and understand Western culture, but are also proud of their Islamic identity. They want to show that being Muslim and being a true British citizen are not two things that are at odds. This phenomenon is known as British Muslim identity, a new identity that combines Islamic values with the British spirit of progress and openness. This is a form of integration that does not force Muslims to abandon their religion, but makes Islam a source of moral values in modern life. Today, many public schools in the UK provide prayer rooms, large companies provide Friday prayer times, and restaurants offer halal menus. The government is also increasingly active in supporting interfaith activities and campaigns against Islamophobia. Although the journey towards full acceptance is still long, the British Muslim community has shown remarkable resilience, maturity, and contribution. They prove that Islam can coexist with democracy, freedom, and pluralism, and even enrich these values. The role and contribution of Muslims in modern British society. As the Muslim population in Britain reaches more than 3 million, their role in shaping the face of modern Britain is becoming increasingly apparent. From major cities like London, Birmingham, and Manchester to smaller regions in the north and west of England, Muslims are now an integral part of the country's social, economic, and cultural fabric. 1. Contribution in the field of economics and business. The Muslim community in the UK is known for having a strong work ethic and entrepreneurial spirit. Since the arrival of the first generation of immigrants in the mid-20th century, many of them started life from scratch, working hard in factories, transportation, and small trade. Today, third and fourth generations of British Muslims have changed the face of the British economy through various business sectors. Many halal food companies, Middle Eastern and South Asian restaurants, Muslim fashion boutiques, and Islamic financial institutions have sprung up in various cities. London is even referred to as the center of Islamic finance in Europe, with the presence of major banks such as Al Rayyan Bank and Gatehouse Bank offering services based on Sharia principles. According to a British government report, the Muslim business sector contributes billions of pounds per year to the national economy. In addition, they also create new jobs and introduce ethical, honest, and socially oriented business concepts. 2. Role in education and academic fields. British Muslims are also active in the world of education. Many Muslim scholars are lecturers at prestigious universities such as Oxford, Cambridge, and the London School of Economics. They play an important role in enriching academic discourse, especially in the fields of theology, international relations, and modern Islamic studies. In addition, private Islamic schools in the UK are known to have high educational standards. Schools like Tawheedul Islam, Girls' High School in Blackburn, have even been named one of the best schools in the UK several times based on national exam results. More and more young Muslims are pursuing higher education and becoming professionals in various fields such as law, medicine, technology, and journalism. They are a reflection of the success of healthy integration, still upholding Islamic values but able to compete in the modern world. 3. Culture and positive representation in the media. In the last 2 decades, British society has begun to see positive representations of Muslims in the media. While Islam was often portrayed negatively in the past, many films, TV series, and documentaries now present true stories about the lives of British Muslims in a more just and humane manner. Muslim artists and presenters such as Nadia Hussain, winner of the Great British Bake Off, have become an inspiration to the public because they show that a Muslim woman wearing the hijab can be successful and widely accepted in the entertainment world. In addition, many Muslim influencers on social media promote Islamic lifestyle, modest fashion, and cross-cultural dialogue in creative and peaceful ways. This phenomenon is slowly changing public perception of Islam, especially among non-Muslim youth. 4. Social and humanitarian roles. In the social field, British Muslims are active in various humanitarian activities, Organizations such as Islamic Relief UK, Muslim Hands and Human Appeal have become the UK's largest aid organizations, helping victims of war, poverty, and natural disasters, both at home and abroad. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, many mosques have been converted into vaccination centers, soup kitchens, and aid distribution points for people of all faiths. This action strengthened Islam's position as a moral and social force in British society. 5. Political and government involvement. In politics, Muslims now have increasing representation. Besides Sadiq Khan, who is Mayor of London, many other Muslim politicians sit in Parliament, both from the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. They champion issues such as social justice, education, and minority rights with a moderate and tolerant Islamic spirit. Their presence shows that being Muslim and being a British patriot are not two things that are contradictory, but rather complementary. 6. Interfaith dialogue and tolerance. One of the most positive developments is the increase in interfaith dialogue between Muslims and other religious groups. Many mosques regularly hold Open Mosque Day, a day open to non-Muslims who want to learn more about Islam. Events like these create bridges of brotherhood and strengthen the spirit of tolerance that has become a fundamental value of modern British society. The future of Islam in Britain and the hopes of a new generation of British Muslims. After a long journey, from the initial arrival of Muslim traders in the 18th century, through the struggles of immigrants in the 20th century, to the historic milestone of a Muslim population exceeding 3 million, Islam in Britain is now entering a new phase, an era of social awakening and maturity. The future of Islam in Britain is no longer filled with fear and uncertainty as it was in the past. On the contrary, it is a time of great opportunity, optimism, and potential for the young generation of Muslims growing up in a multicultural and modern environment. Muslim children born and raised in Britain are now presenting a new face of Islam. They no longer see themselves as immigrants or foreign minorities, but as a legitimate part of modern and open British society. This generation grew up with two strong identities: as Muslims who adhere to religious, moral, and spiritual values, as a British citizen who values freedom, democracy, and equality. For them, being a British Muslim is not a dilemma, but a harmony of identity. They believe that Islamic values, such as honesty, justice, and compassion, are in line with the noble principles of British society. The emergence of many highly educated, creative, and active young Muslims on social media strengthens the positive image of Islam in the public eye. They become ambassadors of modern Islam who convey a message of peace, intelligence, and empathy. England is now known as one of the most multicultural countries in Europe. In this diverse society, Islam has become part of the national cultural mosaic. Mosques stand side by side with churches and temples, while interfaith activities are a regular event in many large cities. British society is becoming increasingly accustomed to the sound of the call to prayer. Eid celebrations and halal culture. In schools, non-Muslim children learn about Ramadan and the story of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as part of their religious studies and world history lessons. This shows that Islam is not only accepted, but also understood as a moral and social force that enriches the life of the nation. The future of Islam in the UK is also closely linked to the growing halal economy. From food, fashion, to tourism, the demand for halal products and services is increasing. A report from the UK halal economy estimates that the UK halal market is worth more than £5 billion per year, with prospects for continued growth. Large companies such as Tesco, Sainsbury's, and KFC have even made halal products a part of their national business strategy. The halal industry opens up huge opportunities for young Muslim entrepreneurs to innovate and introduce Islamic products to the global market, from halal cosmetics to Islamic financial technology. Although the future looks bright, the British Muslim community still faces a number of challenges that need to be addressed wisely. Some of these include Islamophobia still appears sporadically, especially on social media. Economic disparities in some densely Muslim areas, such as the north of England. Identity challenges among young people, who must balance modern life and religious values. However, awareness of the importance of education, community solidarity, and open dialogue has now led many Muslim leaders to focus on long-term solutions. Organizations such as the Muslim Council of Britain, MCB, Young Muslims UK, and various youth outreach organizations play a major role in empowering Muslims to actively contribute to nation building. Islam in Britain is now not just a minority religion, but one of the moral and spiritual strengths of the nation. Great expectations are placed on the younger generation of British Muslims to continue to be pioneers in education and research, innovation and creative economy, social and environmental movements, interfaith diplomacy, and world peace. In the coming decades, the number of British Muslims is expected to continue to increase, possibly even exceeding 5 million. With this growth, Islam's role in shaping Britain's future will become increasingly important, not as a bystander, but as a key pillar in building a just, tolerant, and humane society. The future of Islam in Britain and the hopes of a new generation of British Muslims. After a long journey, from the initial arrival of Muslim traders in the 18th century, through the struggles of immigrants in the 20th century, to the historic milestone of a Muslim population exceeding 3 million, Islam in Britain is now entering a new phase, an era of social awakening and maturity. The future of Islam in Britain is no longer filled with fear and uncertainty as it was in the past. On the contrary, it is a time of great opportunity, optimism, and potential for the young generation of Muslims growing up in a multicultural and modern environment. Muslim children born and raised in Britain are now presenting a new face of Islam. They no longer see themselves as immigrants or foreign minorities, but as a legitimate part of modern and open British society. This generation grew up with two strong identities: as Muslims who adhere to religious, moral, and spiritual values, as a British citizen who values freedom, democracy, and equality. For them, being a British Muslim is not a dilemma, but a harmony of identity. They believe that Islamic values, such as honesty, justice, and compassion, are in line with the noble principles of British society. The emergence of many highly educated, creative, and active young Muslims on social media strengthens the positive image of Islam in the public eye. They become ambassadors of modern Islam who convey a message of peace, intelligence, and empathy. England is now known as one of the most multicultural countries in Europe. In this diverse society, Islam has become part of the national cultural mosaic. Mosques stand side by side with churches and temples, while interfaith activities are a regular event in many large cities. British society is becoming increasingly accustomed to the sound of the call to prayer. Eid celebrations and halal culture. In schools, non-Muslim children learn about Ramadan and the story of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as part of their religious studies and world history lessons. This shows that Islam is not only accepted, but also understood as a moral and social force that enriches the life of the nation. The future of Islam in the UK is also closely linked to the growing halal economy. From food, fashion, to tourism, the demand for halal products and services is increasing. A report from the UK Halal Economy estimates that the UK halal market is worth more than £5 billion per year, with prospects for continued growth. Large companies such as Tesco, Sainsbury's, and KFC have even made halal products a part of their national business strategy. The halal industry opens up huge opportunities for young Muslim entrepreneurs to innovate and introduce Islamic products to the global market, from halal cosmetics to Islamic financial technology. Although the future looks bright, the British Muslim community still faces a number of challenges that need to be addressed wisely. Some of these include Islamophobia still appears sporadically, especially on social media. Economic disparities in some densely Muslim areas, such as the north of England. Identity challenges among young people, who must balance modern life and religious values. However, awareness of the importance of education, community solidarity, and open dialogue has now led many Muslim leaders to focus on long-term solutions. Organizations such as the Muslim Council of Britain, MCB, Young Muslims UK, and various youth outreach organizations play a major role in empowering Muslims to actively contribute to nation building. Islam in Britain is now not just a minority religion, but one of the moral and spiritual strengths of the nation. Great expectations are placed on the younger generation of British Muslims to continue to be pioneers in education and research, innovation and creative economy, social and environmental movements, interfaith diplomacy, and world peace. In the coming decades, the number of British Muslims is expected to continue to increase, possibly even exceeding 5 million. With this growth, Islam's role in shaping Britain's future will become increasingly important. Not as a bystander, but as a key pillar in building a just, tolerant, and humane society